All right, guys, I'm here with James Jones, the real estate guru on Instagram. The guy's getting it done in every form and facet of real estate. We were just chatting before we came online. Happy to have you, James. Thanks for being here, man.
Good. How you doing today, man?
Hey, we're doing awesome. I'm excited to talk about your story. You call yourself the guru, and you really do pretty much every type of real estate. So we'll try to narrow down and give the folks what'll help them the most. But I'd love for them to hear your expertise as we go. I guess give us a little bit of backstory about yourself, who you are, and then we can talk about how you got into real estate here shortly.
Gotcha. Yeah, my name is James Jones. I've been in the game since '05. A time that life was a lot more complicated in real estate. We didn't have all these nice little tips and trips and dialers and skip tracers. It was a lot more harder back then. Got into it because I found a infomercial late at night, 3 a.m. Carlton Sheets, flipping contracts for no money. Bought that course. It was like $39. Came with the VHS tape and way back when, and just started that and got my first deal wholesaling within probably like I think about 3 or 4 weeks after getting that first course in the mail.
So you literally got started by seeing an infomercial late at night.
Yeah.
Like that's the first. That's the first, dude. I've never heard that.
Well, back then that's what it was. We didn't have IG or sponsored ads or Facebook. It was literally a guy in the fucking like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like 19. I was working at a warehouse job. I was like, this shit sucked, and literally just ordered it. It was like $29.95. Came in the mail, and it was a pretty simple process. I'd go to the courthouse, do this, knock on some doors, and literally went out there and did it. And I got the first deal locked up and made like I think like 18, 19 grand on it for being 19-year-old, 20-year-old at the time. That was like life changing money. So I was like, man, forget this. And the rest was a wrap.
That is awesome. So first deal was a wholesale, which explain to folks what a wholesale deal is, just in case anybody listening doesn't know.
Yeah, so this deal was a wholesale is kind of selling to an end buyer. I went down to the courthouse, got a list of everybody about to go to foreclosure. I went knocked on all the doors. It was probably about 70 or 80 doors to get that first person who's interested. I locked it up with a sheet of paper, a contract, a purchase and sales agreement. Back then, I was using like a 14 pager. Now you can use a 2 pager. So life's got a lot dense now. So I did that, had it signed. Didn't know understand how to find a buyer. So, we didn't have internet as much as it is these days. So went to different property managers, knocked on a bunch of doors, found the one that had a buyer that would want to purchase it, sold it. And then the best thing about it, I didn't have to, put any money down, didn't have to, lock it, didn't have to buy it. I was able just to at that time, it wasn't even an assignment contracts around. It was just literally a finder's fee I got paid. It was a finder fees contract, and they paid me a finder's fee of 21,000 for that property.
That is all. I mean, I bet we've all had our first deal. Some have been better than others, but to lock up 21K and you said you were working, would you say a factory job and you absolutely hated it. And now
$9 an hour.
yeah, $9 an hour. And this dude goes and does one deal. Now you had to work for it. You said you knocked on 70 to 80 doors. So talk about that. There's work. People think, oh man, he just ran into $21,000. It
Oh
wasn't that.
no! I mean, it was first, and I mean, it was hard because, like, I mean, at first, like the first couple ones, I fucked it up. I had no script. There was no training on that, so I wasn't doing it to say. But towards the end, I got lucky because like the first couple of pitches weren't working. Because I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get this property and help you sell it to them." They didn't like that pitch, and then by the later in the day, I was like, I'm with a company called Helping Home Solutions. We're here to help you out your situation. We have different programs. You guys can actually walk away. And instead of myself being the person, I was like, I work for a team of guys that can help you get this done. That approach worked a lot better than I found one lucky person that was interested to let me help them out of that situation. And then from there, I was able to change everything up because it's all about your approach too. Because at first, I was knocking on the door and I was just messing up, and I was like, I could take your property and I could sell it for you and I can make money. And they didn't like that approach. But then towards the end, I was able to get something under contract, and I was really, really excited.
Isn't that interesting just how you're positioning it to these sellers? They don't want to feel like, maybe they're working with somebody or, they're scared of realtors, whatever the case may be. Or they don't want to know that you're going to make money off of their deal, even though they're probably in not the best scenario of all time. So you sit down, strategize, change your copy or whatever your pitch is to these folks. And then all of a sudden, it's boom, like clockwork. You start
Yeah.
locking up these deals. Now, how long did you stay with wholesaling after that first deal? What did your evolution of real estate look like?
Well, I used wholesale as a tool just to make money and start other businesses. So I did it for probably 18 to 24 months. And then I was able to go into different companies like carpet cleaning, service companies, stuff like that. because those are more like passive. Real estate's great, I love it, but it's active. So like there's active income and passive income. Even my rentals are not truly passive, but I was able to create businesses like carpet cleaning where I was able to do marketing and have some work in the office, and I was able to travel and just do stuff I wanted to do. But then after '08, the real estate hit a bump, lost some houses due to different mortgages and stuff changes. So then I got back into real estate super heavy like '09, '10.
That's awesome. So I want to take a step back and ask before we go farther into real estate, where did you're obviously a hustler. So you start wholesaling, you're buying and building these businesses on the side. Where does that come from? Like what happened when you were younger or developed through your adolescence or young teens that said, "Hey, I'm just a go getter. I'm gonna make this crap happen." When did you realize you had that inside of you?
I think it's probably just seeing my father. So before he used to work for a roofing company, and then I knew once he went out on his own and started his own roofing company, the amount of income and the way our lives just kind of changed. By him not being afraid to take that jump, I just knew from even at like 14, I was like trying to make money by not really having to do much work. Like people think I work hard as hell, but I'm really lazy as fuck. So I try to always find some way out of having to do the hard work and find the easiest path to resistance to still make some kind of income. So, I wouldn't mind having a smaller piece of a pie if I'm able to just to kind of create a system that rotates and just prints money. That's the main goal with anything I do. So I just done tons of things from, buying wholesale knives off of QVC to take them to flea markets and sell them for, $10 a knife, just different things out the way. And real estate is a really good tool, especially wholesale. If you have no money, to be able to get a lot of money really fast with a little bit of effort, and then take that money and put that money to work for you in different ways and methods to have a nice return.
So when you're wholesaling, the key to a lot of your real estate is buying undervalued deals. You've got to be able to lock up these deals the majority of the time at a good price so that you can go and sell that contract to somebody and have some meat left on the bone for you to actually make money. So what is your strategy, your secret sauce for being able to find those undervalued deals to be able to turn and sell those contracts and make a pretty good profit?
Yeah, so well, things are different. There's a new thing on the mark. I used to call it Whole Town, but now it's called Novation. So like everybody and their mom's now doing it. They just gotta some guy came up with a new name for it, put a nice little ribbon on it, probably selling a course to make money off it, which is great. But we did that, ever since years ago. So typically, any type of deal that we've been locking up since the last 5 or 6 years, we would just kind of clean it up a little bit with vacant house and just take it straight to the MLS to be able to get that top dollar, top buyer. When we're trying to find the list, you want to find a distress motivation. So, absentee owner out of town, that's not a distress. That's a guy like me. I get hundreds of calls today. People are just wasting their money because there's no distress there. So, if you're absentee owner and you're like on a water cutoff shot, if you're on a code violation list, if your taxes are behind, there has to be a pain to any type of lead you're buying. Even like you're going through a divorce. If someone's going to a divorce, that's not a motivation. But if they're going to a divorce and their notes are past due or something like that, so any type of lead I have, I make sure at least has one paint attached to it, and those are the kind of leads I go to. So I could take an absentee list like in Memphis might be 55,000 at first, but after I go ahead and make sure there's a paint to it, that 55,000 list goes down to 6,500 leads. And now, once another wholesaler is on that same list, they're having to go through all 55,000 leads. I'm just focused on the 6,500 and just turning able to get a lot more leads to contracts a lot faster.
That's awesome, man. That's a great strategy. So, what does that system look like for you now? Like, I know you said back in the day, we didn't have skip tracing. We couldn't pool list. Now we can go pool list of these owners by using an app, and then skip trace is what they call it to then get all their contact information. Then you can call them, right? So, obviously, I guess you guys are doing that now. I'd love to hear how you got systems in place for that and the folks who are doing it for you. But how did that evolve over time? What did it look like when you first started? How
Yeah.
long until you could put somebody in your corner to help you? And then what does the technology look like to make that process a lot easier than you knocking on 70 doors personally trying to get that first wholesale deal?
Yeah, I mean, the technology has really came advanced in probably the last, I'd say, 4 years. So we can kind of jump to there. So last 4 years now, we have everything that needs it. We have a virtual assistant. So back in the day, those guys were around, but it was super hard. You had to go through different agencies to find them. Now you can literally go on what's called Upwork.com and WhatsApp, and you can literally talk to these people directly, work out deals. So probably 2 years ago, my whole team was American based. Now everybody from our closers, acquisition guys, everything is foreign because you're able to get such better quality. Because these people, like my acquisition guy, his name is Eddie out of Egypt. He's a rock star. I pay him $5 an hour plus 3% commission. He kills it. When an American, I had to give him, $6,500 a month salary and 10%. They would still barely make the minimum. So the systems start with just the end in mind, with everything. So we have our whole systemized process mapped out, from a virtual assistant who pulls the leads, then goes ahead and skip traces them, and then we make sure we're not hitting the double leads. We pull those out from our phone numbers. We have to go to call transparency to register those numbers, not showing up blocked. So every single part of the wholesale business I have has a system in place to make sure we get the best results on every single part of the phase, to make sure nothing's lacking. Because some guys, they're working good, they're calling, but then their numbers on a spam list, they're not getting that many calls. Or a lot of guys might be having, great cold callers, they have a sucky acquisition guy. So you have to make sure you have a KPI, which is a key performance indicator, for every single part of your business, to make sure you're getting the best results and that you're winning on every single part of that transaction.
I like what you said there at the end. You got to be able to measure
Hmm.
your key indicators, and what's the old saying? What gets measured gets managed. And if we're not measuring the things that matter, then we have no idea what's going on in our business. I get so uh, just baffled at the number of people who are running a business, but if you ask them about their numbers and what their key metrics are, they have zero idea. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I was on a coaching call the other day, and a guy was like, "Yeah, my VAs are making 600 calls every day. They're killing it. I got 12 of them." I was like, "Well, that's great. Let's look at the talk time. How much talk time you have? Because talk time is more important than dials or call." Like, okay, cool. He's like, "How you do that?" I was like, "Let's just go look at your VA conversations over 2 minutes. Let's just see how the last 2 weeks, how many calls you actually had." He had 7 calls over 2 minutes, and he's paying for 14 VAs. He's just wasting thousands of dollars because dials don't make a difference. Conversations are key to make sure that those people are actually going to have a conversation. 'Cause a lot of these VAs, people don't take the time to go through to make sure they can say the word property right. You have fucking roosters or chickens in the background. Like, you have to be able to make sure you have checking every single part of your business to make sure you're able to measure it to get those best results.
now, how hard is it to train those assistants? Like, how much time are you having to put in? Especially on the front end, call it the first 4 to 6 months. I guess it'd probably be the same as anybody. You probably get some good ones that stick, and then you probably get some bad ones that you have to work through and get rid of. Is that pretty spot on?
Not really. So we have a different way we do it. First off, we do what's called a disc test. We're trying to get their personality and make sure we're putting the right person in the right direction. Then we have a course we send them through. It's like a virtual assistant mastery course. They have to go through it, make sure they understand ARV, make sure they understand basic math, make they understand comps. And if they fail this thing at 90% or less anytime, they can't move forward the process. And they have
Wow.
to do this even prior to getting to an interview, because I don't want to waste my time interviewing someone that hasn't been pre-screened. They have to get through all this. They already got about 15 hours invested into trying to work for me. Then they can hop on an interview. And usually I do a mass interview, like 15 to 20 people, have them role played. As I'm going through, I'm just deleting them out. They get offended sometimes, but I don't give a shit. Like, I'm trying to find a rock star, not just an amateur person that can call. Anybody can dial, but you want to make sure someone that can have a conversation. They understand tonality. Tonality is such an important thing in this business, because you don't understand tonality, you can't tell if a seller's just bullshitting, if it's not a real seller. So you got to make sure you spend a lot of time on the front end, designing a process that's going to make sure you get the best person that could be a cold or for you, or even be an acquisition rep or a lead warmer, lead manager. That way you're not wasting your time training them over the next few months. And then after that, usually I hop on with about a 1 hour a day on Mondays and Tuesdays. I go over the sales aspect of them. Then we have our dispo girl hops on them with them Wednesdays and Thursdays, go over the whole process of a contract, explain the contract, how to lock it up, comps, checking their comps, make sure they're making the right offers. And then Fridays, my partner Anthony hops on them with them and goes over the systems, how Podio works, make sure they're working the leads correctly. And it's a constant elevation of their lives. And then also I make them do book reviews every single day. They have to do a different book review just to make sure their mind is open to the entrepreneurial, mindset of they can have a better life, and they actually don't have to live in their situation now. They actually can improve their life by working for us and get to somewhere better.
Wow. So you're actually investing in these folks and saying, "Hey, look, we're going to teach you and show you how to take your personal life to the next level, make more money, have more freedom." That's pretty cool. A lot of people aren't doing that.
No, like I said, a lot of our VAs have able to, leave the Philippines. They went to different markets like UK. Some came to America, but at the end of the day, you want them to be able to go to that next level. You don't want them to stay at that bottom. You want them to be able to elevate their lives to be able to get somewhere better. to change themselves, and that's the truthness of this business, is be able to help them, get to that next level in life.
That's really cool, man. Good for y'all. Good for y'all. For y'all listening to this, um, they have really good systems in place. He just laid it out in about under 1 minute, but can see how efficient their business is working, and that's what allows them to continue to have success while also continuing to allow James to have a life outside of being bogged down in his business every day. Because if he didn't have these people in place, then he would have to be cleaning up slack all the time. And I'm sure there's days where you have to poke your head in and kind of light a fire, maybe, or clean up some nonsense. But when you take the time to hire right, you heard him talking about early on, he would nix people if he saw them on their role play and they, couldn't hold a conversation, they're out. And then, put them in the right roles, train them correctly. You can build a very strong business and also give yourself a life outside of that. So one of the questions that I know a lot of our listeners will have is, okay, you guys have all these things in place to where you're bringing in lots of properties. You have VAs calling, so I'm sure you have a decent number of leads that are coming in every week. How do you decide what you're going to do with them? A lot of people listening to this podcast will buy a lot of buy and hold rentals. So we can to break it down even further. How do you decide when to keep a property as a rental or to either flip it or wholesale it?
Yeah, so it depends on the price I can get it for. So typically, if I'm getting it less than 35 cents on a dollar, I keep it for myself as a hold, and we do what's called the Burr method. We do
Explain
that.
that. Explain the Burr method. Sorry
Okay,
to cut you off.
no problem. So that's where I buy a property that's super distressed. I go ahead and rehab it. I make it super nice, bring it up to 2023 standards. I go ahead and put a tenant inside there. I get it rented. That's what the R stands for. Then I repeat it. And then with R, we call it the burrs. Then we scale it. So we do that because on a burr, I'm able to print anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000, and this is in tax-free money. Plus, I'm able to get the depreciation, and also I'm able to use all those interest payments because I never use my money. I use hard money to do it, to be able to defer any of the income I'm making on my flips or my wholesaling business. So like on one of my LLCs, I think we're able to write off a little over $1 million this year in losses just from interest payments. And that'll help me out when I go to file my other taxes with my K1s, do my flips and my holds that are profiting. That's what we're constantly always buying. And it's a really way to do it because it's just tax-free money. It's great.
That's awesome, man. That is so. So you're saying if you're getting it less than 35 cents on the dollar, that's when you're putting in your own portfolio and you're using hard money to acquire those. Now, a lot of times with hard money, for you, they may give you full 100%, but a lot of times they're going to give out 95%, 90%, 85%. They're going to loan you of the purchase and the rehab. So, where would you encourage folks who maybe struggle with finding lending, help them find that remaining 10% or 15% down payment they got to have for a hard money lender to be able to acquire a rental property?
So you can be what's called a deal architect. That's what I am. So like I said, I have a lot of coaching students I help now. I even do hard money lending myself through my lending company. So what I tell them to do, if you lock it up, let's say you're doing JD buys houses, and let's say your whole company is JD Holdings, what you would do is you would lock it up and sell it to yourself for assignment fee. That way you get your down payment back immediately. Or you can use what's called transitional funding to be able to pay 1 point for that 20,000. You'll pay $2,000 to borrow that money instantly from the closing company. Then you'll make money on the purchase. So the way I teach real estate is you should never have money in it. If you have money in it, you're doing it wrong because you literally can lock it up yourself, put a $20,000 assignment fee on there, sell it to yourself. The lender doesn't know where the assignment fee is going. They don't take the time to investigate, which is crazy. It's better for us. And then you're able to get your down payment back instantly if you have the funds, or you can use transitional funding to get into the deal with $0 out of your pocket.
Wow. That's awesome. That is called being creative. And like he calls himself, the deal architect, finding ways to get the deal done without spending your own money. That's one of my huge messaging pieces as well, because it's been so big for me. I probably haven't got as creative as you have with a lot of these things. A lot of mine have come from private funding or seller financing, but there's no way, in my opinion, unless you're just worth multi-millions of dollars and you got money sitting around, that you can really make an impact on your income and your future in real estate if you're using your own money, because you're eventually going to run out. I remember when I first started, I bought my first two deals with 20% down. So it was like, call it 15 grand for each property. And then I had to put another 20 in on rehab. Well, dude, I got done. That was like in a 4-month span. And I'm feeling real good about myself. I'm like 26 years old at the time. Like, I just got 2 properties. I'm going to be rich. And I looked at my bank account and I had like pretty much no money left to go buy another property. I was like, I don't have any money for a down payment. I definitely can't do rehab. And I remember that was my moment of, we got to figure out how to buy real estate without using my money, or maybe these will make me wealthy in 15 years. These two, I'll have a little bit of cash flow and maybe they'll be worth $600,000, but this isn't going to cut it. So when was that moment for you? I guess, when did you started out hustling, but when did you say, all right, dude, I am not using my own money? Like, how do I go find money? How do I get creative? Who was that person, or what book or podcast, whatever it may be in your life, that kind of helped you put it all together? Because you just dove head first, right? And you listened to that course. How'd you put it all together and get creative?
Yeah, so I mean, really, is my partner Anthony. So before, I was the guy that always want to use my own money, make money, and just keep using it. I really want to have a bunch of hard money loans, debt, stuff like that. But then everything he had was done by private money or hard money lenders, which was pretty cool. And he's even more creative than me. So he's even had, different sellers in the past that would actually hold the down payment. So like, he'd get a loan for 80%, but make the seller carry back the down payment. So once you started doing stuff like that and using lenders, we just took off to the races and just went ham. Because I mean, like, it was a process at work. We did it. I was like scared at first, like, let's start small. So we did like 5 houses. Like, that shit was great. Like, dude, that was amazing. Like, instead of doing 10 houses a year, I can do fucking 5 houses in a month. I was like, let's fucking roll. Then we went, balls to the wall and just started doing, any house we got, we're just locking up, just like a conveyor belt, because there was a system in place at that point.
That's really cool. So what's your sweet spot? Me, I normally buy in B2C class neighborhoods. I have an idea, I think, of your method, but I want you to share it with the followers. What is your guys' sweet spot? What are you looking for when you're buying properties?
Yeah, I like D's and C's, and even some F's. Like, I don't give a shit, because like the way I do it, so different geographics. I look what's coming in the future. I look at the city plan, what they're gonna be doing. So like, we have one area now. It was an F for years, called Orange Mound in Memphis. But there's so much development in there that I knew that area was going to be on fire and raising up. So these houses, 4 or 5 years ago, we're buying them for $15,000-$20,000 with the tenant in place. And now these houses are appraising anywhere from 165 to 200,000, just because of what's going on in the area. So don't look at the current impact of the area. Think about the future. Go 10 years out. As long as you have a bank that can refinance it and put on long-term debt, the area doesn't make a difference, because equity comes and go, but cash flow always flows. So we try to focus on the cash flow. Plus, these other areas like D's, C's, and F's, you're getting a lot more cash flow. So if I go to an A area and buy a suburb house, I might make $200-$300 a month, which is great. But if I have one thing like a hot water tank go wrong, then hey, boom, there's 6 months of cash flow gone. If I specialize in an F area, where I'm buying a house for 60 grand and putting, a mortgage on it, and then mortgage payment's like $500. Now I have that rented out Section 8 for $1,550. I'm making $1,000 cash flow. So that's $12,000 a year. It means I can have a fucking roof happen, a fucking hot water tank, and a fucking drive-by shooting, and I still make $3,000 on that property. So there's more property preservation in the nicer areas, because you have that guaranteed, 3% of growth every year. But the hood will make you a millionaire, because your cash flow is so much more. And most people should focus more on the cash flow, I think, aspect, instead of the actual appreciation value of real estate.
That's very interesting, man. I love that strategy. And one thing that you said in there, because I'll be honest, I've owned property in D class neighborhoods, and what I've noticed is your maintenance and vacancies and all tend to be higher, unless, and here's the kicker, which I want you to dive into, you put them in and turn them into Section 8 housing, which it sounds like you're doing. Because what a lot of people don't understand about Section 8, and I'll let you elaborate on it more, is a lot of people shy away from it as investors. But in reality, you usually can get a lot of good tenants. Because tell me if I'm wrong, James, but if a Section 8 tenant gets evicted, they can never again rent from Section 8 housing. And so usually once they get in, they don't want to get booted out, because it's going to be a lot of long-term effects for them down the road.
Yeah, correct. Like I said, it's another thing my partner Anthony brought to the table when we got started. So before, I had all retail tenants. Back when COVID happened, we had a small portion of Section 8, but probably I'd say 70% of our hundreds and hundreds of doors were, regular tenants. They all got behind and stuff. He was over here just fucking printing cash. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, this shit's crazy. And that's when we decided, listen, I want to do the same thing. We're going to have a new process. So we just went ahead and did everything 100% Section 8 now. The five main benefits, if I had to give five, is one, Section 8 pays about 20 to 30% higher rents. Second main benefit we've seen is the tenant like stays forever. They don't go nowhere. It's like crazy. Like they fucking don't want to leave. And then third is getting a rent increase is so easy. So like it's not like a typical $30, $40. You get market rent increase, which is super nice. The fourth thing is the tenant has stuff to lose. Like they could be evicted. So like they don't want to lose their voucher. Like who wants to lose what's the government's giving for free? It makes no sense. And then the fifth thing, these people are the best like cheerleader for future tenants. Like they'll literally tell all their friends on the vouchers, they pass it on, and it's just a great overall stream of constant leads because hey, Keisha said she had a property. You want from her your tenant? Like keep bringing them. It's amazing. And with maintenance, so what we did, because I already had hundreds of rentals, I knew what the main issues were. So, me and Anthony came together. We just took out all the maintenance issues. We took out the garbage disposal. We took out the fucking sprayers. We made sure all the units are down below where they can do a filter. They can change it themselves. We made sure that, winterizing the water spigots on the outside, we just get rid of them because these people don't want to follow direction. They want to bust. We make sure we insulate the pipes. So you go through and you make sure that you're doing all these things to prevent the top 10 maintenance. You really
Smart.
won't have a bunch of maintenance issues because you're getting rid of them on the front end. Even from the toilets, like the little flappers break, we do the push down toilets. Like make sure you're buying the right kind of stuff that's not going to break. Instead of double valves, we buy a single valve shower head system, so everything just flows better, and then all those pointless maintenance claims that they don't come in, and you're able to actually cash flow better if you do on the front end, because unfortunately people are going to fuck up a garbage disposal. They're going to break their kids are going to break their sprayer. I don't know if the kids swing on it, what they do, that they just break them. It's crazy. So if you just do those things on the front end, you're able to profit a lot longer in the long end.
Guys, that is gold. That is absolute gold. Nitty gritty, real estate, hands on stuff that most people never even think of until they get into it and they realize their cash flow is getting totally destroyed because of maintenance costs. Section 8. What does that process look like for the investor? What does that process look like for the tenant?
Yeah, so Section 8's a program. It's a government program. So a lot of these tenants are on a waiting list. So in Memphis, I think we have like 1,000 plus tenants are just waiting for a landlord to come along so they can get more people in the system. So overall, it's a good process. Section 8 pays up to 100% of the voucher, the rent. Not all the rent, so it depends on the tenant. Some might have a 15 out of pocket, some have a 200, so it's based on their situation. And for the landlord like us, it's great. There's incentives sometimes where Section 8 will pay you a bonus for renting these houses. The other incentives for landlords is, it's like I said earlier, it's a higher rent. And to me, a Section 8 tenant versus a retail tenant, a Section 8 tenant is actually a better qualified tenant overall because they have something to lose. They don't want to lose the voucher. So if they stop their plumbing up and their commode, and I say, listen, that's your responsibility to get your lease, fix it, or I'll have to evict you. Guess what? They're fixing it. They're going to the dollar store. They're pumping Drano down there. They're trying to fix it. I talk to a retail tenant. They're like, no, I'm not fixing shit. You come fix it. And they send you a demand letter. So the difference is when you have leverage over someone, you're able to make sure that tenant and you have a great relationship. You guys work as a team. And so that tenant stays a lot longer versus a retail tenant because as soon as you didn't fix their toilet, when their lease is up, they're on the way to the next house. But a Section 8 tenant, it might be hard for them to get another $1,500 deposit to get a next place. So it's harder for them to leave you as a retail tenant can leave you since they have income. As soon as they file their taxes, they can be on to the next property. They're trying to upgrade. So those are the main differences, in my opinion.
That's solid. And how hard is it to apply to turn your house into a Section 8 rental?
Yeah, so a lot of people think it's a huge difference. It's really not. The main things you have to have is windows that can lock. You have to have two working plugs in every single one. The main thing is doors. You have to have a key that can open the front and back door. You can't have just a knob that turns. It has to be a knob, not a key. So it's very small changes you can do. They have small kids. You can have chip and paint, but there's a lot of websites out there that you can go to get a free list to see what's going on. Or in about a month or two, I'm actually launching a course that's going to focus on Section 8 in general, how to do it, because the impacts that it's made on my family and my life, like, I've thought about doing courses for year and wholesale and stuff, but, holds is one thing that you actually can impact someone's life because, like, the cash flow of 100 grand plus per month is life changing. 10 grand per month is life changing versus wholesale. You constantly have to do it over and over again. When you're doing a portfolio with Section 8, you're building something that's going to last forever. And it just keeps going up and up and up every single month, which is just crazy. And the government pays for it. Like, I ain't got to worry about it. It's such a nice feeling to know they do pay a little late, but third to the eighth, but anywhere from the third to the eighth, I'll get a nice, huge chunk from Section 8. And I ain't got to worry about the nitty gritty of hounding people, harassing, or chasing money down. It's just a system that works, and it works great.
And you're not allowed to charge the government a late fee, are you?
Yes, you are.
Can you really?
Yeah, so we have one
What?
now. Yeah, so I mean, some people don't do it, but listen, if they're late, they're like we don't do it like on a monthly basis, but sometimes there's different reasons that they forgot paperwork. They're just slow. It's the government. They might pay someone's rent 6 or 7 months late. Those situations, unfortunately, you have to pay the late fee.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That is awesome. Well, I'm excited when that course is going to come out. When do you expect it to launch?
Probably the next 30 to 45 days because I'm trying to make sure that it has everything someone needs to do. It's not going to just be like some bullshit course that's just a overview. It's going to be like everything from fucking what kind of shingles to buy to the toilets to walk through. So it's going to be something that if someone buys, they actually can implement and actually get from their first deal to how many other deals they want to do and everything in between from, how to
Oh,
pick a property manager to how to get funding. I'll have lenders in there that I use personally that actually will lend to people without even credit. Just different things that people need to be able to scale their property. Or like I said, we have a lending company too. We do what's called a DSR loan that allows people that might make only 50 grand a year to go out there and get Section 8 rentals and be able to leave that fucking worthless $50,000 a year job in a very short time just by using our lending platforms. And the reason I started that because I was having a problem because I was stuck at 10, regular loans, and then different people wanted 20% down, 20% down. But with the Burr method, it's better to have a DSR product. That way I can literally I mean, first of all, I did it for myself. It's like, fuck it. I wanted to find someone that could give me loans and I don't have to worry about getting my credit pulled all the time and stuff like that and have to worry about all these, tax returns, stuff like that, because a lot of times I file losses. So it just enables people to be able to scale and just, take off and get to that next level really fast.
that's really cool. And for those of you guys who don't know what type of loan he's talking about, you got DSCR loans, also known as commercial loans, also known as portfolio loans. These are the loans that investors have to use to scale a portfolio. Like James said, he got to about 10 properties under his personal name, and the bank wouldn't loan to him anymore. A lot of times, what happens if we do a conventional loan is it eats away at our personal debt to income ratio. And the bank eventually says, you have too much debt compared to your income. We're not loaning to you anymore. That's when we move to DSCR loans, also known as commercial portfolio loans. And we can scale. Like you said, they're not going to pull your credit all the time. I have to send an updated personal financial statement and a credit pool at the beginning of every year. And
Mhm.
that's, pretty much what I do. Every now and then I'll have to send a PFS if it's been a while since I bought a property, but it makes the process a lot simpler. And like James was saying, if you can get in with somebody who trusts you and you build that relationship with them, like the company that they have, it makes buying real estate a lot easier because lending is one of those hurdles that we have to overcome. And if we can put that to the side and just now have to focus on finding deals or whatever the next hurdle is, then it makes life a lot easier. James, one more topic I want to hit on before I let you go. So you've been investing since 2005. Most people have been investing, that'll listen to this for a year, maybe 2, 3, 4, not many. You have had the pleasure or the horror of going through one recession already. Okay. And now who knows where we're headed. Obviously housing probably shouldn't get hit as bad as it did in 08 and 09, but here we'll see. Everybody is a little nervous about where the economy's going. Just tell us about your journey through 08 and 09. You even mentioned you lost a few houses because of some loans you had, and then what you're doing to prep for 2023, 2024, and what advice you'd give to others.
Yeah, most definitely. So what I was doing back when I lost some houses, so I had that limit of 10. So back then, I would quit claim them to LLCs to get them out of my name, and then keep buying in my name. But unfortunately, some banks have a due on sell clause, and no one's ever done it. But back in '08, unfortunately, I was with one of the banks that went bellied up, and shit happens, which is kind of depressing. So that's why I need to now everything DSCR. It's all in my LLC from the get go. It's on 30-year long term debt, which is amazing. And if anybody needs any kind of loans or anything, they can always click the link in my bio, or they're interested in the course, they can click that to get some more information on that to help them out.
Hey James, I want to tell them real quick what a due on sell clause is. You want to tell them? Just give them an idea what it is. That way, folks know.
Yeah. So what, to kind of make it simple terms is anytime you like send a transaction to another holding or another person, like a quick claim or whatever, you're not technically supposed to do that based on your terms and conditions inside the loan. So unfortunately, I knew that, but I always heard like no one ever cared about it, so I did it anyways. And we were supposed to not to. So I lost a lot of houses, unfortunately, because I was an idiot. Because I wanted to keep scaling, but like, back in '08, that's when DSRs first came on the scene. So back in like '05, '04, like we didn't have those type of loans, so there's no other alternative. You were stuck at a certain level, which was 10. It was like a cap. So unfortunately, I found out the hard way that, hey, unfortunately, if you do that, they will come and take your stuff back.
Because to them, it looks like you sold the property.
Correct. Yeah, that's what they thought,
Oh,
because LLC. Yeah, and I tried to do it, but like the local bank here was called Union Planners. It was bought by Regions. Regions didn't care. They were just trying to get all those loans off the book. And and then I had another small loan company that they took them back too, but I was able to keep those houses for like 8 years, which was stupid because no one ever came to check on them. I kept on paying the property taxes. Like it was insane. So technically, I lost them, but I didn't lose them because like no one ever did nothing with them. It was like a ghost house, or because the mortgage company went belly up, but it was a smaller mortgage company. So I guess it just took years for them to get to the top to understand that those houses were never, taken or sold, or stuff like that.
that's interesting. I actually have a friend of mine who they hit hard times during the recession, and they were supposed to lose their house. And I guess probably a situation like you, bank went belly up, somebody else bought them, and they stopped getting mortgage bills, and their mortgage just evaporated. It was like a ghost, and I'm like, what? So there's some people, I guess, who got blessed in the
Mhm.
last recession. Recession, a lot of people didn't. What's your advice to folks? As we enter, call it a rocky market, whether it's now or whether it's 10 years from now.
Yeah, just so you got to buy the right deal. So the market doesn't make a difference. Before we're in a seller's market, you were having to pay super high for deals. Now we're in a buyer's market, so it's better for guys like us in general because we can get better deals. We can get people that can't sell their house; they'll take owner financing or terms. So it's not an issue. Just any deal you're buying now, I would just take off 10% to prepare for the worst on an appraisal when you're going to refi versus the best. So don't look a year ago, look back 3 months, 4 months. Make sure you're looking at current data going into this thing, and it's better to be conservative and have a better outcome than hoping for the best, and you're having to bring $4 or $5,000 to your refi, because the name of the game is to be able to print cash infinity, not bring money to the table.
Great advice. Great advice. You hear him. You hear James say, always you can always find good deals in any
Mhm.
market and always buy good deals. I see a lot of folks that get antsy, or the worst thing that can happen is you let emotion get involved in the decision instead of just looking at the numbers. And so, great advice there. Make sure you're finding good deals and buying the good deals and stay away from the bad ones. Well, James, thank you so much for being on today. How can everybody find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram is the best. It's the real estate guru. That's the best way to get me. I have a link tree on there, has all the social media links there too as well. If you need any like lending or interested in the future course I'm having, you can sign up there. Everything's just real simple on that one little link on Instagram.
That's awesome. Guys, the real estate guru, James Jones, make sure that you share this episode when it comes out. Tag us on your Instagram or YouTube, TikTok, wherever. Let us know that you've shared it so we can say thank you. And James, again, appreciate you being on the show today. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks, man.